Hello, I am Red Mage, and welcome to a Magic the Gathering video featuring the color red. In today's video, we're trying to beat the decks from the top 8 of the World Championship with Mono Red Aggro. Mono Red did very poorly at the World Championship, and if you look at the sideboards of the top 8 deck lists, you can see why. There are various builds of Esper and Ramp, as well as a Bant Control, a Golgari mid-range, and an Azorius Soldiers. Among those decks, there are, on average, 5.6 cards per sideboard, or more than 1/3 of total sideboard cards, that are specifically good against Mono Red because they are efficient answers to small creatures, ways to gain life, or both. Specifically, there are 6 Elspeth Smite, 9 Cut Down, 2 Lantern Flare, 3 Sunset Revelry, 4 Anoint with Affliction, 2 Go for the Throat, 5 Knockout Blow, 2 Path of Peril, 2 Tranquil Frillback, 1 Depopulate, 4 Wandering Emperor, 1 Sheoldred, 2 Obstinate Baloth, and 2 Gix's Command. And that doesn't count cards like Tear Asunder or Farewell that can be good against Mono Red but are more hit or miss. But the most popular format on Arena by far is Best of One standard. By playing Mono Red Aggro in Best of One, we eliminate a huge portion of the card pool that made it perform so poorly at Worlds. Yes, some people will Best of Oneify their decks by pre-sideboarding against Mono Red. But many more people will simply copy and paste the main deck of their favorite top 8 list and play it card for card. So let's take a look at this build, which is designed to do exactly what those decks do not. Consistently make efficient, aggressive plays starting on turn 1. We have 13 proactive 1-drops in Kumano, Swiftspear, Phoenix Chick, and 1 Voldaren Epicure. I could even see the argument for cutting 1 or more 2-drops to fit in more Epicures. It is just so much easier to win games when you have a turn 1 play than when you don't. If you look at the deck lists of the top performing Mono Red players at the World Championship, you'll see that they are only playing 10 or 11 1-drops. They do that because they are making room for higher mana value cards, specifically Goddric Cloaked Reveler. Goddric is arguably the best, or at least the most powerful, card in the deck. But it is 3 mana, legendary, and costs 2 red mana. Playing fewer 1-drops to play more Goddric sacrifices consistency for mid to late game explosive power. But these top 8 decks are always going to have the advantage in the late game. So we're only playing 2 Goddric in this list, and the rest of the deck is similarly structured to prioritize consistency and speed. Monstrous Rage and Witchstalker Frenzy are incredible cards in this deck, but they don't do us much good without attacking creatures. Monstrous Rage also sets us up to get blown out by instant speed removal, so we're only playing 2 each. Feldon and Squee are legendary, and Squee is 3 mana, so we're only playing 2 of those. I think you definitely want to play 4 Charming Scoundrel. The value and versatility is just too much to pass up. And then the mana base. I mentioned Goddric costing 2 red mana as a downside. The Mono Red decks at Worlds are generally playing 3 or even 4 Mishra's Foundry. That creates a lot of situations where you have 3 mana on turn 3 but can't cast Goddric. It also makes it more difficult to play 2 1-drops on turn 2, which is an option you want to have when you are facing open mana and a potential counter or removal spell. So I'm playing 1 Mishra's Foundry and 1 Mirrex. Mirrex provides colored mana the turn it comes into play, so there will almost never be a situation where you have 3 mana but can't cast Goddric. I think Mirrex is also a better late game utility land against blue-white control specifically. Foundry provides more get over the finish line explosiveness, but Mirrex continuously pumps out tokens that can win through infinite life gain thanks to poison counters. In the games that follow, you'll see the card choices of this leaner, faster, more consistent mono red deck bear fruit in the form of wins, including against decks that made the top 8 of the World Championship. And then we'll come back at the end to wrap up. Enjoy the gameplay. We are on the play and we have a great hand. Very excited about that. So if our opponent has black mana available, we play Bloodthirsty Adversary to play around Cutdown. Otherwise we might play the Scoundrel and put a Wicked Roll on it. But it's a trigger, so it would be a 2/2 while the Wicked Roll triggers on the stack. We're pretty cool with just attacking here. If they want to trade with the Kumano, we'll let that happen. If they try to trade with the adversary, we can save it with the Monstrous Rage. There's definitely an argument for just firing off the Monstrous Rage on the adversary.
This is my home, and I don't appreciate it when people touch my things.
That would essentially, since it now has died, would have ended up being just a lightning bolt to the face. So we want to play Scoundrel here to be mana efficient. The question is, are we going to make a treasure? Probably, right? Especially since we're attacking the Liliana. It's more important to have mana for next turn.
A delay, nothing more.
Okay, we can kill that with the Frenzy. That's actually perfect. Now we can Squee and kill the Glissa. And this way, even if they have a Shieldred next turn, they can survive the turn. Trespasser gains a life, so it's better than Shieldred in trying to survive the next turn, but they're still just going to be dead. This is a very good hand. So we'll probably be doing Kumano into Voldaren Epicure and second Kumano on turn 2. Although depending on what they play, if they play Athalia, we'll just play a Bloodthirsty Adversary. They play nothing. Soldiers, so this is Soldiers. So they have some kind of flash stuff going on. I don't think that really affects what we want to do. We could still do Epicure plus Kumano or the Adversary. But I think we want to get these Kumanos going. It's tempting to want to get a 3/3 attacking right away. But I think we're better off in the long term with more Kumanos. the opponent wants to race. So I think here we want to kill the veteran, especially because we have a flipped Kumano, which means we'll exile it. So we're going to play the adversary. Kill the veteran. And I don't really mind trading the recruitment officer with either of our 2/2s. That could be a problem. If we just attack with everything, they can only eat one of our creatures, which means they're either chump blocking with their 1/1s, or we're getting a bunch of damage through. So we just gotta push it through. We don't have a removal spell for the Mirrel. Myrel. Don't need to play the Mirrex first because they can add red the turn it comes into play. Okay, this builds up some cards in the graveyard so we can... One more card in the graveyard and we can bring back the Squee. And if they attack, like, they'll probably play some more soldiers. But they'll make fewer soldiers than they would have been able to otherwise. So they won't be able to block all of our creatures. Next turn, assuming at least one of our non-token creatures dies right here, we'll be able to bring out the Squee and hopefully should be able to finish them off. And we'll have Celebration with the Goddric. Never mind. Brutal Cathar. So they can make 3 1/1s. Ah. 5 1/1s. Okay, well. That does it, right? We can kill the Cathar as long as they don't have Make Disappear. And then attack with the Goddric, the Kumano flipped. So we'll have Celebration. Let's see if it works. Okay, so if they don't have a removal spell, got there. This is a great hand. Turn 1 Kumano, turn 2 Scoundrel, turn 3 Swiftspear plus Frenzy a creature. Seems pretty good. Definitely glad to be on the play in this mirror. Since they don't have mana up, I'm just going to make the Scoundrel bigger. Maximize damage and our advantage being on the play. The great thing about Frenzy here is it's very difficult to get a Swiftspear out of range. It's interesting, we could consider lightning striking the Swiftspear while they're tapped out. They're going to have a lot more creatures in the future with those Kumanos. There's a good chance we're going to want to cast the lightning strike on a creature. I think we actually do that. It's going to be very hard for them to get a hold in the game if they just can't keep any creatures on the battlefield. I mean, I think we just kill both their creatures here. I don't see why not. So in this case, we actually would have won the game with the lightning strike. Let's see what they've got. It's not impossible they could kill us here. Okay. I mean, I think it's clear we just attack with the Scoundrel and the Kumano. They'll trade with the Kumano, and they'll have to just chump the Scoundrel. Okay. Wow. So they give up. I mean, it's not 100% that we win that game. They're going to have to chump again. They won't be able to trade the Scoundrel with the Adversary because the Wicked Roll will kill them. So in retrospect, should I have killed that Swiftspear with the Lightning Strike? Or just killed it with a Frenzy and saved the Lightning Strike to possibly go to their face? The decision to kill the Swiftspear almost cost me the game, or could have cost me the game. But it might have been still the right decision at the time. We have a pretty good hand here. On the draw is unfortunate, but that's how it goes. Stormchaser Drake, okay. So that's interesting. We can waste our Kumano trigger here to kill the Stormchaser Drake. But then we're really doing so little. I think we want to just keep the pressure on and hope that it doesn't bite us too hard. Swiftspear plus Kumano. We might be able to get them low enough that we can just target them with the lightning strikes to finish them off. So if we go for a Monstrous Rage here, they could phase out the creature that it targets. So I don't think we want to do that. Do we want to Lightning Strike them to get a Prowess trigger? I think so, and then we could Monstrous Rage plus Lightning Strike next turn, potentially. Okay. Well, they're paying a mana to Fading Hope there. That's not too bad. And they're paying a life, rather. Paying a life to Fading Hope. And paying another life just to draw a card. Or draw 2 cards, I guess. It's gonna be tricky. Mirrex is a pretty good draw, because it allows us to cast all of our spells. Alright. Now we don't cast the Monstrous Rage, we just go to damage and they have to do something to survive. That's unfortunate. So, I think with the safekeeping on the stack, we need to cast the Monstrous Rage. Because if they're going to respond to that, they would have to kill themselves to do it with the Yavimaya Coast. So we're going to Monstrous Rage the Kumano that is not being blocked. So Ivy will be able to cast it, but I'm not too worried about that. It's not like they can kill us anytime soon. Alright, they didn't draw anything to deal with it. This is a very good hand. We're obviously going to keep it. Looks like we might be up against Mono Blue. I wish we had another creature. And there we have one. So we risk getting Goddric countered, obviously. Alternately, I could Sokenzan. That's something I'd rather do after playing Goddric. But if it seems likely they have a counterspell, I think I'm going to go for that. We can do it for 3 mana because Feldon is legendary. We can kill that. It would have been nice to draw a land there. That way we could play Goddric or Squee, but this is obviously fine. It's always good to beat Mono Blue. And we're back to wrap up. I think what this version of Mono Red gets right is that it doesn't sacrifice the speed and consistency of small creatures for late game power. We try to be as powerful as we can possibly be without putting ourselves in too many situations where clunkiness prevents us from getting over the finish line. If I were to make any changes to the deck, I might consider adding one Witchstalker Frenzy, one Goddric, one Epicure, probably replacing a Bloodthirsty Adversary if I did any of that. But I think it is more or less as optimized as it can be for this specific approach to Mono Red. The deck list is in the description. I hope you enjoy running over the best performing decks from the World Championship, and I'll see you in the next one.